Hey, I know what you're looking for. A two-door rear-drive sports car with 500 horsepower, give or take 5 horsepower or so, and a price tag somewhere between $70,000 and $100,000. And would you look at that? That's exactly what you get with the 2021 BMW M4 Competition, and the same goes for that 2020 Chevrolet Corvette. But which one should you get? What should you expect from either? Would you rather have the mid-engine All-American or the front-engine German? Would you rather have an all-natural V8 or a twin-turbo straight six? That's exactly what we're going to find out today and explain what you can expect from the performance of each of these vehicles. We're also going to spend a lot of time talking about what makes them so fun to drive because, hey, that's what you do. They're sports cars, right? Hey, you know the drill. If you enjoy videos like this, give us a like, a comment, and subscribe. If you don't like videos like this one, help me out. Fake it till you make it. Still click like, come on, you know. Check out the links in the description for more information. And if you're thinking about selling a car, there's no better place to do it than edmunds.com/sellmycar. You get an instant cash offer for your vehicle. It's easy. This isn't just any M4, it's the M4 Competition, which means it has more power and additional upgrades for the rigors of track use. Versus the Corvette, it is longer and taller, but that's because it's based on the M3 sedan, and for that reason it has back seats and a usable trunk. Under the hood and behind that grille is a twin-turbo straight six. In competition, guys, BMW says it makes 503 horsepower, which it routes through an 8-speed automatic. The 6-speed manual is only available on the non-competition version. This is a 2020 Chevrolet Corvette we bought for the purpose of long-term evaluation and certainly not to do drag races and track days. No, sir. It doesn't have a back seat because that's a space occupied by the 6.2-liter V8 and 8-speed dual-clutch transmission sit. It still has a trunk though and a frunk too, which combined have more total storage space than the M4. That might offset not having back seats, but I digress. Where the M4 has the competition pack, this one has the Z51 performance pack and adaptive dampers, but it doesn't have carbon ceramic brakes. They aren't even an option on the Corvette. So you could ask, you know, in the year 2021, is it even really a sports car? Anyway, this car had a base price of about 60 grand and we paid a little bit over 80 for this particular model. There is a remarkable amount of overlap between the Corvette and the M4 when it comes to specs on paper, but also with regard to features. Both of these cars have adjustable stability and traction control settings that goes beyond just like on, sport, and off. The BMW M4 has like 10 levels of traction control and a drift mode that actually scores your drift with star ratings. This Corvette has performance traction management, which is like a 5-level stability control system that doesn't score your drifts, but should help you go faster. What I'm gonna do now is see what it's like playing with each of these settings around a corner that I kind of like to power slide around. I've got the Corvette set in track mode for everything else, and then the stability control setting is set to race. I'm gonna attack this corner at a really aggressive manner and see what I can make the stability control do. Let's find out. So that's interesting. So what I can feel the power doing is I can feel the engine cutting power when I'm approaching the limits of traction there. And so I could just stand on the gas pedal and feel the engine pulling back in response to the amount of traction available. That's really cool. So what's nice about that is as you're learning how to drive this car fast, you can dial up the aggression or dial back the aggression of that stability control setting to get to a point where you feel like you're maximizing your speed through a corner, but without risking sliding off the track backwards when you get into a gnarly oversteer. Of course though, I'm gonna have to do this with everything off. To really have some fun. Turning stability control all the way off. Okay. That's a good time. That's a real good time. That's a real good time. Oh, that's a lot of fun. Power sliding mid-engine sports cars, a lot of fun. This, the way this steps out and has so much control, you can basically counter steer all the way until you run out of steering. You're basically against steering lock. And man, there's so much traction in the rear that you can just stay on the gas pedal. The linearity of that engine, the way it delivers that power, oh, that feels so good. That feels so good. Okay, I'm really excited to play with the M4's adjustable traction control because when you do, you get into the M-Drift Analyzer, which tells you can only use it, of course, off public roads and so on, which I'm sure all owners are going to do, of course. So once it's on, it actually rates your drifts with stars. And you can see the results of my practice runs while I was trying to figure out how it all worked before we started recording. So when it's on, you can change the level of traction control by hitting this button. It's from off to 10. And you see when it goes to 10, you can only get 3 stars. When you go to 0, you can get 5 stars. So that's neat. Let's put it at, I don't know, 2. And see what our drift looks like with that on. Manual mode, everything else is in kill mode. Let's give it a try. Ooh, understeer. Woo-hoo. That was me. Okay, okay, okay. So, a pretty free, that was a bad drift. That was a bad drift. Gave me 3.5 stars on that drift, which seems like a pretty high rating given what happened inside the car. Because I understeered initially, was able to pivot, get on the gas, 3rd gear basically, and nailed it. And was able to get to the amount of drift sideways, like the degree of slip, that felt like the car was about to loop, and I basically could just stand on the gas and then assume the traction control was what was keeping it in line. If so, that's pretty cool. Let's try no traction control. And let's see if we can do a 6-star drift. It's kind of like GTA. Let's see how many stars I can get. And what I've been doing is I've also been doing this in 3rd gear because the way the powertrain responds, it's so fast that where the Corvette could do this in 2nd gear, this really needs 3rd gear. Oh, fighting that understeer. that was a pretty good one. That was a 4-star drift, according to the M4. A 4-star drift. We did it for 5.1 seconds, did 115 yards, and had an angle of 23.3 degrees. I bet if I didn't have that initial understeer, I could probably do it even better. This engine is ridiculous. This engine is absolutely insane. Okay, so on paper, the Corvette and the M4 have fundamentally the same amount of power, roughly 500. But the way this M4 delivers its 500 horsepower is totally different. The rush of acceleration as you hit the accelerator pedal is ridiculous. This feels like a way more robust 500 horsepower, for sure. It's absolutely part of the response of the turbochargers, the engine of itself. It actually, power seems to increase the closer you get to redline, and it kind of feels like a naturally aspirated engine in that sense. Of course it isn't. You can just hear that it's turbocharged, but this accelerates and revs like a naturally aspirated engine. But the force of that power is hard to comprehend when you realize it's actually slower in acceleration than the Corvette. How does that make sense? That feels exciting. Similarly, all the responses in this car, there's a lot happening. The front end, for being a front engine rear drive car versus a mid-engine rear drive car, the front end has more grip in it than you may expect. I have a lot of confidence in this front end to go the way that I want it to go, and there's a lot of overall traction in this car. These cars are on the same brand and model of tire, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, and the front end of this car I am really enjoying. The debate would probably center on the rear end of this car, because as you can see by the amount of throttle management and steering management I have to do just while talking to camera, let alone setting a lap time, I have to manage oversteer in this car. Oh, nothing like a little oversteer at 75 miles an hour. I have to manage the rear traction in a way that is exciting, sure, in a way that definitely makes the hair on your neck stand up, but not in a way that enables me to focus on driving faster, let's say. This is certainly has a lot of excitement in how it's delivering that power, because when I'm on a straight or powering out of a corner, I can feel that rear axle dancing around and the rear tires giving up on traction. That's fun, that's amusing, but it is more challenging. I should say right now I'm driving with the stability control off and the traction control set at its intermediary setting, its number 5 setting, and I'm still getting a lot of oversteer. So from a balance perspective, this is a busier car. That might be more fun for some people. I assume this would be a lot of thrill on a mountain road, on a curvy road where you're not running at race pace or looking for lap time. This would probably feel very dynamic, but it certainly takes more effort. It certainly takes more effort to drive fast. The steering response and the feel, the response is accurate. It's tied to the direction that I want to get the car to go, and I'm realizing that a lot because of the amount of counter steer I have to dial in. But overall, I just wish I had more rear traction. You know, oversteer is fun and good. I want to be able to get oversteer, but I don't want it always thrown in my face. I want to be able to access it when I want to access it. And I guess you could say, if I'm hitting the gas pedal in this car, I'm wanting to access oversteer. So there's that side of the equation too. Okay, so I think we've talked enough about handling balance and oversteer in this M4, but it is pretty insane. Let's talk about the transmission. This is an 8-speed automatic. It's not a dual clutch like the Corvette has, but I don't mind. It's shifting fast enough, and the shift logic in its sporty mode, which I'm using now to have it shift automatically, it's largely in the gear I want it to be every time that I want it to be. I don't feel the need to shift manually, so that's a plus. I could do that if I wanted to. In terms of the rest of the interior, this feels more traditional in terms of the driving experience. I have an engine in front of me. I have rear wheels being driven behind me. This is not as exotic of an experience as that Corvette, but it doesn't seem to matter because the experience is kind of overwhelmed with the oversteer happy handling balance that this M4 has. There's a lot of fun toys and detailing happening in this interior, but a lot of it feels very obviously BMW. And that's probably why you're getting such the price difference between this and the Corvette, is because this certainly has an air of BMW refinement or aura on top of it. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of the carbon fiber upgrades this interior has and why this car costs so much as tested. I mean, this is $102,000. It better look nice and feel nice inside and out. While we're on this topic of interior, let's talk about seats. These bucket seats are very expensive, $4,800, and they do a really good job of holding me in place laterally while I'm subjecting my body to all the stuff that this car is throwing at it. They do sacrifice a bit of comfort on road, especially when it comes to thigh support, because you don't get the ability to like move your legs side to side as much as you would like when driving on the road. Similarly, the suspension is not as compliant when driving on the road, so it's not bad at all, but the Corvette is definitely more comfortable than this car on the road. And that's funny because the Corvette's less expensive and a mid-engined sports car. This is a BMW M4. So dynamically, I know this is near the same level as the Corvette, but 110 miles an hour in this doesn't feel like 110 miles an hour in the Corvette. This feels faster. So if you want a car that's gonna make you feel exciting, not because of what it's actually doing, because of how it makes you feel, this is it. What's remarkable about hopping in this Corvette after driving that M4 is how wildly different the driving experience is between two cars that are pretty similar on paper. The engine, let's start there, and the transmission. This engine makes approximately the same amount of power as that BMW's engine, but it doesn't feel as exciting on the face of it. Where that BMW is constantly urging you forward in a way that makes you check your throttle input, the power delivery from this V8 feels smoother and more linear. And that comes back in a way with the handling that we'll talk about later, but also with regard to sound, that's just a nice sound. I really like the way V8 sound, but engine sound is up to whoever's driving ears. It's all a matter of taste. But these cars have the same number of forward gears. The red lines aren't that different, yet that M4 seems to race through its gears more quickly than this Corvette does. And that's strange because we know this Corvette is quicker in a straight line. Not by much, but it is. Overall, this engine feels smoother and more tractable and a little more controllable than that M4. And it's by itself, and in the response it gives back to me as a driver, it's less exciting, but because I don't have to control the engine as much, because I can apply more power I can apply power with less restraint, let's say, I can do more things with the gas pedal, and that kind of segues us into handling. What was remarkable about that M4 was the front end, but the Corvette has the same experience because of its mid-engine layout. With the engine and the transmission behind me, I'm sitting closer to the front axle or the front wheels of this Corvette. Now that's gonna give you, for a variety of reasons, you're gonna feel like a more immediate steering response, especially versus other front-engine rear-drive cars. But that seating position and that character makes this driving experience feel a touch more exotic. There's something special about not seeing a hood, the hood that just sort of slopes away from you from the cockpit. And that relates back to the steering in a way that you feel like you have a lot of traction in the front end. I felt the same way in the M4, but this has that same experience. But with the handling balance, the other thing that really stands out is how much more traction it feels like I have in the rear of this Corvette. Where that M4 is constantly dancing around under power, you always feel like you're on the verge of oversteer. This Corvette feels a little more balanced around this track. At some of the higher speed S's, those higher speed S's corners, you actually are managing more stability understeer in this Corvette than you are in the M4, where you're managing oversteer. I appreciate that when doing 70 miles an hour through S's. But you know, that's a difference in driving style. You may like oversteer in that situation. Your call. I also really like this square steering wheel in the Corvette. When I'm driving fast, the shape of this wheel gives me unique tactile feedback where I put my hands on each corner. I really like that design. I know a lot of people have given the Corvette some criticism because it can look kind of funky, but in practice, as a driving tool, I think it makes a lot of sense. But more back to the handling, the Corvette's real strength isn't just its performance. The performance is really strong, but it's also how the breadth of capability of the suspension. At our test track, with these tires, it circled our skid pad a little bit more lateral G average than the M4. But what's also remarkable about how much grip this has on a racetrack in a sports car environment, it's also the more comfortable car on the road. It has a much softer ride. And these optional bucket seats, these are the mid-level seat upgrade on the Corvette. These are much nicer seats to live with than the ones you get in the M4, and they cost less too. Tying it back to the handling and the engine experience, The Corvette is less exciting in the responses that it gives back to you, but I'll say it's more exciting in the things you can do because of that. Because this Corvette feels a bit more composed from an engine response and a handling perspective, I don't have to think about managing its oversteer or its grip mid-corner in the same way that I have to do in the M4. And that allows me to do more exciting things while driving it. Instead of the car having qualities that are exciting, me as the driver, when I get enough skill, I can do exciting things. And that's a very subtle, but I think biggest distinction between these two cars. Both of them are fun, to be sure. This one, though, has the driving experience that I think I prefer a little more than that M4, though that M4 is a lot of fun. The interior is another thing that makes this Corvette feel a touch more special. Because this has the arrangement of a mid-engine exotic sports car, the interior kind of matches that experience. Of course, because it is a kind of a unique thing in the Chevrolet lineup, you don't see a lot of other pieces. There's not a lot of similarities with this car and another Chevrolet sports car, unlike the M3 and the M4, which fundamentally have the same interior design and feel very traditionally BMW. Of course, there are parts of this that definitely feel Chevrolet. You know, you're not going to pay a base price of 60 grand for a sports car and expect to have the highest quality interior in the world. I mean, come on, let's be serious. But the digital display in the center, the fact that it changes on drive modes, the fact that I can adjust it to give me the experience that I want to see when I'm driving the car, these are all things that make the Corvette really nice to use on a day-to-day basis. Both of these cars would make for great daily drivers, I think. But the Corvette is the one that I think would be slightly more special without having any of the typical downsides you'd associate with a sports car. This Corvette's really good. I've spent a lot of time in this Corvette as the owner of it at Edmunds, and this to me is really a triumph of sports cars, both for the price, but for the breadth of capabilities. You can have a lot of fun on a track day with this car. You can also enjoy it around town every day, and without a lot of compromise. I think from a going fast perspective, the Corvette's strength is that it feels more like a tool for speed rather than something that's kind of toy-like or exciting for its responses, right? As a driver, I can use the Corvette's abilities to go faster and to challenge myself. And I really like that about this experience. But that's just my driving style and that's my preference in cars. You may be totally happy in that M4. So what have we learned with this comparison? Well, we've learned that the Corvette and the M4 are both really good sports cars that even though they're very similar on paper, they wind up doing very different things from behind the wheel. Which one should you get, or what should you know about each if you're looking to buy one? Let's start with the M4. It's the one to get if you want a ridiculous acceleration or engine underneath the hood of your car. The way that engine dominates the driving experience, the way it delivers traction or lack thereof to the rear wheels makes for a very exciting car to drive, even if it's not faster than the Corvette. It also has back seats, and if you can live with that nose, it's gonna be a decent daily driver too. Now, the Corvette. The Corvette just feels more exotic primarily because of its mid-engine layout. It's also a little more comfortable on the road during day-to-day use and definitely more controllable on the track, and it's faster too. I think the biggest advantage to the Corvette though is its price. You can get a lot of Corvette for a lot less money than an equivalently optioned M4. If you like this video, let us know in the comments below. Also be sure to like and subscribe and check out the links in the description if you haven't already. If you're looking to sell a car, the best place to do it is edmunds.com/sellmycar. There you'll get an instant cash offer on that vehicle. It's that easy. Na, 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 na.